But guess what, Conor? I'll beat the fucking out of you. And when I knock Nate Diaz the out and you realize I'm the biggest fight for you, call me and I'll answer. And I'm my own boss. I make my own decisions. I'm not controlled by Dana White. I don't have a dad. And so I can make the fight happen. If Dana lets you make the fight happen, then we can run it.
No, I fancy him for it, to be honest. I fancy a man's a bit windy. The other cat's a bit windy. Yeah. You know, so, but he's a donkey. The guy's a donkey, yeah, the other cat. Yeah. But a donkey has a kick as well. So you just got to be worried of that. So, but I just think, mate, weather and that is normal. And be peppering and be in his face. And I just think it's really Nate, you know, really Nate.
Ever wonder what happens when two of the biggest names in combat sports face off? In one corner, we have Conor McGregor, the brash Irishman who took the UFC by storm and became a global icon. On the other, Jake Paul, the YouTube sensation turned boxing star who's made headlines for his audacious claims and viral victories. For years, these two have been trading shots like it's their day job. It's a back and forth that's more intense than a WWE SmackDown. Every tweet, every interview, it's like a new chapter in a never-ending grudge match. And let's be real, these guys love the drama. It's like oxygen to them. With a $50 million fight offer hanging in the air, the gloves are off. McGregor's promising to turn Paul into a punching bag, while Paul's acting like he's the one who's gonna retire the Notorious. But before we dive into their potential bout, let's talk about the nitty-gritty of their beef. Let's be honest, none of us ever imagined Jake Paul versus Conor McGregor ever stepping into a ring together. Conor was the star of UFC, and Jake, well, he was a guy pulling pranks on YouTube. But a funny twist of fate has led us here, and the boxing community isn't complaining. Jake Paul and Conor McGregor are two names synonymous with brashness, confidence, and controversy. But what started the fire? Well, it all happened when Jake first entered the boxing scene in 2020. Now, we both know the problem child. He pretty much started his career by calling out the biggest names in boxing, and the Notorious was top of that list. Here's the thing. The YouTuber turned boxer's been after big money fights ever since he first stepped into the ring, and it doesn't get any bigger than getting Conor McGregor to put ink on the contract. This guy's the PPV king, and he's had some of the highest grossing fights of all time. So Jake's first call out of McGregor came in 2018 when he was just starting out training in the gym. But let's be real, no one took him seriously because Jake didn't have a single fight under his belt. No one knew how he'd be in the ring, and fight fans were not ready to bet on a YouTuber just yet. Then Jake stepped into the ring with Anderson Gibb in 2020 and started making buzz in the fight world when he picked up a first-round KO win. When you're Jake Paul, you don't wait till you get in the big leagues, one win, and this man was out there calling out everyone and their grandmas. The problem child then put up gloves against retired NBA player Nate Robinson and once again sent his opponent crashing onto the canvas. At this point, Jake was convinced he was some sort of knockout god. He jumped levels and decided to go after the biggest names in the sport. I'm talking everyone from Mike Tyson to Conor McGregor. This was when he dropped his first bombshell, a $50 million fight offer for the Notorious.
What the is up, you Irish? Good morning, Conor McGregor. I know you're probably beating up old dudes in a bar right now, or maybe you're because you're sick of your wife. I mean, she's a 4, Conor. You could do a lot better.
As you can see, Jake Paul didn't just throw down the gauntlet, he dropped a nuclear bomb. This guy came in like a wrecking ball, no holds barred. He straight up disrespected Conor McGregor, the MMA legend, like it was nothing. $50 million cash on the table? That was a bold move, especially for a newbie boxer fresh off the second fight of his career. Jake called Conor scared, said he was a YouTuber beater, and even dragged Dana White into the mix.
My team sent you a $50 million offer this morning. $50 million cash, proof of funds, the biggest fight offer you've ever been offered, but you're scared to fight me, Conor. You're ducking me because you don't want to lose to a YouTuber. You're 0-1 as a boxer. I'm 2-0 as a boxer. I just came off the 8th biggest pay-per-view event in history, but you want to fight Dustin Prober, who has less followers on Instagram than my fucking dog.
Now this guy really thought he stirred the pot there, but his call-out flopped big time. Let's not act like Conor McGregor is some washed-up old-timer. We're talking about the guy who carried the UFC on his back for years. This is the guy who made PPV records look like child's play. He's beaten the best of the best. Aldo, Mendez, Alvarez, these are legendary names. McGregor's not just a fighter, he's a phenomenon. Sure, he had to take a break because of that nasty leg injury against Poirier, but the guy's back and better than ever. And let's be real, Jake Paul saw an opportunity to cash in on McGregor's comeback. But Conor wasn't falling for a YouTuber calling him out. The Irishman ignored the call-out, and so did the rest of the fight world. There was complete silence on the topic of Jake Paul from Conor until he did an interview with Bloomberg.
What do you make of the recent trend of fights between celebrities and people of different fighting backgrounds? We had a YouTube Jake Paul beat former NBA player Nate Robinson. That sold over 1 million buys on pay-per-view. A lot of people are criticizing it as maybe making a bit of a mockery of fighting. I want you to weigh in on that for me.
You know, if they are fighting, well, then it can't make a mockery of fighting, right? They're getting in and they're competing. You know, I am not so much against it. What I would say is, though, the numbers that show calculated was, it was a Mike Tyson fight. You know, you had Tyson, an icon in fighting, as well as Roy Jones Jr., two goats in the sport of combat. You know, and then you had the YouTube kid and then an NBA star competing underneath that. So it done good business.
Notice how Conor decided to let this one slip away? You and I both know the Irishman isn't one who runs away from controversy. If anything, Conor adds fuel to the fire, so this was a strategic move by the Notorious. And you know Paul, of course he didn't give up. He was shouting from the rooftops, begging Conor to step into the ring with him. Now, it definitely rubbed the Irishman the wrong way, because when he was asked whether he was open to a fight with Paul just a month later, this guy replied with, "Never say never." We heard you, Conor. This beef took another turn when Conor posted a training video on social media and Jake decided to share his 2 cents on it.
Jake Paul responded to a video of Conor McGregor showing a boxing workout. He said, "This is embarrassing. Your chin is wide open with no head movement." Conor McGregor responded to Jake Paul with this.
Jake, being Jake, kept poking the bear. He told Ariel Helwani of the MMA Hour in 2022, "It's got to happen. Why not? He's a businessman, I'm a businessman, and that's $75 to $100 million for both of us." But Conor quickly shut down the idea on Twitter by writing, "You've 2 fights and done 70K buys. You are a flop, kid, a nobody." Here's one thing about Jake Paul: when you call him a flop, this man lashes out. The Irishman unleashed a monster who had a full meltdown on social media. You're more active on Twitter than you are in the octagon. Stop taking Trenbolone and start taking fights. You're more actively cheating on your wife than you are in the octagon. Your priorities are mixed up. Put down the bottle and get back to fighting. In your 18th fight, you made $150,000. In my 5th fight, I made $15 million. And you want to talk about pay-per-view buys? Nate Robinson, 1.8 million. Ben Askren, 500,000. Tyron Woodley, 500,000. Tyron Woodley 2, no one even wanted to see that fight, and we got 200,000 pay-per-view buys. In the last 5 years, you've had 0 pay-per-view buys because you don't fucking fight. So things got real ugly when Jake Paul accused Conor of being on the juice. I mean, Conor was already under the microscope because of how quick he bounced back from that leg injury. But when Jake dropped those steroid accusations, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Conor's already got a fiery personality, so you can imagine how he reacted. This whole steroid thing just added another layer of hate to this already toxic rivalry. After years of going back and forth on social media, it looks like there's finally hope for Jakey Paul versus Conor McGregor. So get this, Jakey just stepped into the ring with Mike Perry. Unless you've been out of the loop, I'm sure you know that Mike's a bare-knuckle brawler. Conor, being a majority shareholder of the BKFC, was rooting for Platinum all the way, and let's just say he put way too much faith in the guy. Come on, Conor was tossing around big words like how Perry would end Jake's career in the ring, and let's just say quite the opposite happened.
Perry, you know, one of our big stars here, the king of violence, he titles himself, and you know, he's had such a rise in the sport. Now he's up against you know, a little dweeb of a thing in a fight this weekend that we're all rooting for him.
Calling Jake a little dweeb of a thing backfired because the problem child picked up a 6th-round KO win against Perry. Now this fight didn't sit right with Conor, who as a result decided to fire Perry from the BKFC. Yeah, you heard that right. Guess it's safe to say Conor isn't a fan of Jake, right? It's clear that Jake Paul and Conor McGregor have never been friends, and it's doubtful that's going to change after their latest exchange. Just minutes after Paul scored a 6th-round knockout over Mike Perry, the Irish superstar took to social media to blast him for the performance. "Jake Paul is the biggest pissbag I have ever seen in my life," McGregor wrote. 40-pound weight difference, juiced out of his head and still shitting himself in there. "Nikisa Badarian, you should take him to Vegas." Oh, that's right, you could never. The Athletic Commission testing, real fighting. And then calling out 60-year-old Mike Tyson, fresh off an in-flight medical emergency? While he didn't get all of McGregor's message read back to him, Paul got the gist of it along with another message from the former two-division UFC champion where McGregor claimed that he was firing Perry from BKFC after losing on Saturday night.
Hey, that's that you fired your BKFC champion, but I told you that was gonna happen. You know, I told you exactly what was gonna happen. He was big upping his boy Mike Perry. I said, okay, Conor, like after I Mike Perry, then you're next. So Conor's on Twitter all the time. He's on his yacht all the time, but guess where he's not? In the ring fighting me. So he can talk all the fuck he wants, but the notorious MMA is scared of Jake Joseph Paul from Disney Channel. And I put that on my mind.
Look, the only way this beef ends is with these two throwing down in the ring. A McGregor versus Paul fight? It's the biggest money matchup in combat sports history. We're talking about a pay-per-view bonanza that would break records. It's a win-win for both of them, right? Huge payday, global spotlight, and bragging rights for life. But here's the thing. Conor's ego is as big as his left hook. Fighting a YouTuber or a former Disney star. It's not exactly the legacy-building fight he's looking for. So while the world wants to see it, we might be waiting a while for this one to happen. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. So will you tune in for a showdown between Jake and Conor? Make sure to let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Boxing World. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.